Good morning and welcome to the Bee Haven Farm Apiary. My name is Loren Jenks, student studying to be a master beekeeper with the Cornell University program. Emma, I'm so glad that you're here today. I love to show off my bees, so we're going to get right to it. First of all, when locating your hive, here's a couple things that you need to look for. One, some sort of a windbreak. My bees, my hives are on the lee side of a hill. If you look up that way, you're looking up. So we have a nice windbreak for the winter. Further to the northwest are woods, and up a hill, that's more windbreak, okay? The winds come from those directions in the winter time most of all, and it's a very good thing when the wind just goes over top the hives and not hit the hives. I'm not going to say that it never hits the hives, but there we go. Further, another thing to look for. Let's take a look at these trees here. See, at this time of year, it's very hot out. It's very humid right now, and we have shade on the west side of my hives, so that come in the afternoon time frame, my hives are shaded, and I don't have a lot of bearding. I did have some yesterday, but again, not so much as what you would think. Now further, some of the things that happens is in the wintertime, the sun does one of these arc numbers over here like this, okay? Now, all the trees behind me are deciduous, or that means that they drop their leaves in the fall. So what happens then? The sun is able to get through all these trees here and hit my hives. Okay? That's another plus of the apiary. And that's some of the things that I love about it. And I'll be 100% honest with you, when I set up my apiary, I did not think about these things, but this is what I got, and I think that's just so cool. Now you have some information there, and you can look at it that way too. Now further, it's not all roses here in this apiary. If you notice, these hives run from south to north, okay? Now the problem with that is, in the winter, when the sun comes over, not all the hives get full sun. So I'm going to be fixing that before the fall. I'm going to set them on a different, I'm going to basically switch the hives so that they'll be up and down the hill instead of just across the hill. Okay, what else we got going on? As far as cons. Another con that I have going on is my hive stands are getting pretty old. They are rotting, so another thing that I need to do before the winter comes is I have to rebuild my hive stands. So I will be doing that before winter. Okay, now I'm going to take a look at the outside of the hives, if I can get the camera over here. Okay, if I can get the camera over here. Yeah. Now from here, we're going to be looking at the second hive in, which is the blue one. And if you zoom in on the bees coming in, I don't know if you can zoom or not, you can actually see some bees bring in some pollen that's in their pollen baskets, which is on the shoulder of one of their sets of legs. And they're just coming in with some yellow pollen right now. And where they're probably getting that from is we have a lot of, back on me, we have a lot of buttercup in the area, so they're probably bringing the yellow from that. Also what's in bloom right now, we have blackberry in bloom, so they're getting nectar from that and pollen. We have white clover, which is a very close to the ground type clover, but also a very beneficial clover for source of pollen and honey, for pollen and nectar for the honeybee. And we have black raspberry and raspberry in bloom. There's several other things, but you know, there's only so far that we can list. Locust is in bloom. So there's that we have. Now, what do I see when I look at these hives? Or actually what I'm looking for. Here's what I'm looking for. Is there any robbing going on? Is there any of the bees looking in distress? And everybody appears to be relatively happy, and they're going in. I don't see any robbing. I don't see anybody having a problem. Further lost my train of thought. Anyway, I'm not expecting to see any problems when I open up these hives. I expect to see growth in my blue one right now. And I think we're just going to have a good old time as we take a look at these hives today. Other things that I'm looking for, we can get back up on me, is you know, any diseases that we might have. And again, I saw no problems as I was looking at the hives. Now, one thing I like to do before I begin to smoke a hive is I like to smell a hive. Don't go there. Don't go. Get away from there. That's a dangerous place for you to be, cameraman. Listen, I don't mind turning myself around a little bit for you, okay? And that brings up a good point. How are we supposed to approach a hive? First of all, we stay away from the front of the hives, okay? And that's kind of like akin to walking and back of a horse. You could get kicked. That's step one. Step two, when using a hive, when approaching a hive or working a hive, you work from the back, okay? Again, if you're in the front, the dangers, the possibility of you getting stung are exponentially increased. So now, before I smoke a hive, I know it's taught differently in school, but I like to smell a hive. I have a really good sense of smell, so I just love to smell the hive. And what I'm looking for is anything that's out of the ordinary, and if I should be looking for anything. So I'm going to lift the cover relatively gently. Come in here. Okay, it smells good. I'm going to go ahead and put the cover back on. For a short period of time. And this is when I begin to employ my smoker. I will come around to the front of the hive, and cameraman, you don't have to come around. Well, go ahead, cameraman, come on over. It's okay for me to talk to the cameraman in this instance. Okay, you have the thing on this hive here? Okay. All I'm going to do is a light smoke on these bees. That's all that's necessary. That's all that we need to do for the front of the hive. We don't have to puff and puff and go like this all the time. No need for that. Just one little wave in front of the hive. It lets them know that something's going on. So that's what we do. Besides, huffing and puffing on a hive is never good. And by the way, what we want is a nice cool smoke. And if you look here, this smoke is relatively cool, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And if you hang around after the lesson, I will indeed show you how to smoke, how to light your smoker. Now at this point in time, we're going to do that inside the top cover. Okay. They're not too happy with that because they know there's something outside going on. And by the way, lest I forget, we don't inspect on a every 2 or 3 day basis, okay? What we do is we inspect about every 10 to 14 days. We'll inspect more often in the June, July, August time frame, say every 10 days, and every 14 days or so when it's cooler in the late April and beginning of September to mid and late September time frame. I typically tend to stop my inspections end of September just because it's getting a little bit too cool out. And that's for us beekeepers, for someone who's been keeping bees for a while, that's a sad, sad time. Okay, this is my toolbox that I built. It's a custom thing. I have a frame hanger right here so that I don't have to carry them in the toolbox. Okay, next thing to do here is we're going to lift the cover, the inner cover. This is the inner cover, carefully, and I'm going to smoke a little bit in there. Again, I'm not puffing and puffing, just light smokes. Okay, that should be about long enough. And what we're going to do is we're going to set the inner cover on top of the outer cover. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to hit each corner with the smoke. And what that does, it just drives the smoke down in. And that should be about all the smoke that we got to do for today. But we shall see. I'm going to keep my smoker handy just in case. Now, this is a hive that has been weak in the past. Believe it or not, it is stronger. Come on over here. It is stronger than it has been. Can you zoom in from where you are? Are you feeling comfortable? Okay. This has been a weak hive. I requeened it 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks and 1 day ago. So we're at the 22-day point, and it is stronger than what it has been. It is an overwintered hive. It went into the fall and winter as very weak, but you know something? I was able to keep this alive because of certain tools that I have acquired. Now, what we're going to do at this point in time is we're going to go ahead and remove a frame so that we can discuss a couple things, such as larva stages and whatnot. What I'm looking for in that area is is the larva correct? Is it good? Is it ready to go? Okay. Now what I'm doing is I'm pulling the second frame in, and if you notice I have 2 follower boards in here which I will be replacing today with frames. So that's going to be an immediate action that I'm going to do today. And if you notice, I'm hitting the second frame in. Well, actually, this is technically speaking the first frame in. So I'm going to hit the second frame in. And the reason being is because the queen is not normally this far out, and we want to protect her from any damage. Now I'm going to lift this frame out. I'm going to check and make sure that she is okay. And I don't see the queen on this frame at this point in time. which is what I would expect. So I'm going to go ahead and set this frame on my frame holder. And in order to keep my frame holder from dropping my frame, I have a protecting thing. By the way, Emma, I want to say I'm really appreciative of my cameraman. He's never worked bees before, and he's bravely helping me out with this inspection. Okay, we have the one frame out. So now we don't have to pull out a bunch of frames, and what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can't find some eggs. So I'm going to move over here, this frame over a little bit, because I'm really not expecting to find eggs on this frame. This next frame might have some, but you know something, I'm even going to pull this one out. And I'm going to look on one of these black frames. If you see there's a, well, you missed it. There's a bee there carrying a pollen into the hive. Okay. I'm keeping the frame over top the hive again, in case the queen is on this frame. I do not see her at this point in time. Okay, looking on this side, looking for the queen. Again, I do not see her. Okay, now what I'm going to do at this time, I'm going to try to find some eggs for you. And I have to bring my glasses down because I can no longer see this stuff with my naked eye. Ooh, yes, okay. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of surprised that she's not on this frame. Okay, we're going to have to get the cameraman to come around. Are you okay, cameraman? Okay. Over in here, see if I can find him again. Okay, cameraman, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there are eggs inside some of these cells in here. I don't know if you can see it or not. Oops. Can you see the eggs? You sure? May I see what you're seeing? No, okay. I love my cameraman, he's my brother. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do, just in case. Just to be sure, I am going to take, whoops, a couple pictures. Here. And I have a bee hanging around me who's not happy. I don't know why she's not happy, but she's not. Okay, and this is why I own a frame grabber. This is so that I can hold my frame very carefully, and then, whoops, and hold up my frame so that I can grab a pick or two. Trying to find where the eggs are. There's one. How can I find it with the phone? Okay, well, no, I can't. So I'm just going to hit a few pictures, and hopefully they will turn up. Okay. Now, on the same frame, Go away, sweetie. Go away. Go away. On the same frame, I don't know if the cameraman can get it, I have some really nicely colored pollen, which is in your typical pattern. Normally you'll find pollen outside the ring of covered brood, which is what this stuff here is. That's covered worker brood, by the way. You have your pollen here, and then outside that you'll find either nectar or honey. And I don't know if the camera can see that, but outside there is some wet stuff, and that is nectar. Okay, I'm going to put this in the same way that I had it. Putting it in very carefully. Now, I don't normally do this, but I am going to try to find the queen on the next frame. Since there are eggs on this frame, there may be a queen on this frame. I'm not sure, but we're going to find out. Okay. Again, holding the frame over top of the hive. This is a heavier frame. Okay. Oh. Where are you, cameraman? I have the queen. I don't know if you can see her or not, but there she is. She's under my thumb. I'm pointing at her with my thumb. Cameraman, do you see that? Isn't she good? She's glorious. I love her. And now that I think about it, I'd best get her back over top the thing. I got too excited on that. And then on this side, we have some capped honey right through here that is not covered brood, that's not capped brood, and that sort of thing. Putting the thing back in. I was so excited to see the queen. I rarely get to see her. And when I do, I consider it a real treat. Now, let's talk about mites for a minute, okay? You can bring the camera back up on me. Let's talk about mites for a minute, or even for a long time. There are many ways to treat for mites. They are your worst enemy, okay? Mites hate you, and you should definitely hate them, and you should be able to know how to kill them. I promote two ways, okay? One is with what used to be called Mite Away Quick Strips. Today it's called Formic Pro, okay? And what you do with that is you put it on your hive and you let it set for 2 weeks, and then you pull it off, okay? Now, the thing about Formic Pro is it has a very long shelf life. And if you noticed, I only have 4 hives right now. And if you get a set that might use more than what you need to use for this year, you can use more of the Mite Away of the Formic Pro next year. Further, follow all label directions, always. And if you do, you'll probably kill more mites, and the chances of your colonies making it through the winter increase exponentially. Also, one other way that I treat for mites is in the fall. I use what's called oxalic acid vapor, okay? And what that does is when there's no brood, you go ahead and put the vaporizing material into the hive, let it vaporize, and it will kill the mites that are on the bees, okay? Now further, one thing I have not talked to yet is the swarm. First thing I want you to know is do not be afraid of the swarm, okay? It is a compliment from your bees to you saying that, hey, you've done a good job with us. But there are ways to manage the swarm. One way is to, if you're in the hive and you see queen cells on the bottom here. Let's say that this were a queen cell, and if it were, this would come down to a point of a cone. You could cut that off, or another way is you could split your hive. I'm not too worried about this hive wanting to swarm because it's not that overly populated, and they're trying to figure themselves out right now. Further, other ways to avoid swarms is to split your hive. Okay, and I'll show you later on after this thing exactly how to do that. Other ways, you could make nukes out of your hive, that sort of thing, just on and on and on, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set this back in to the same position that I got it, okay? And that was the second position in. These here are follower boards, and so I'm just going to set this in very carefully. And I have a bee that's right here that she just does not want to move, so I just moved her out of the way. And by the way, you notice I'm not wearing gloves. You can, by all means, until you get comfortable not wearing gloves. Now, some things that need some immediate attention is obviously I need to add a couple of frames to this hive, because right here are just follower boards. They're just boards that take up space inside the hive to make the bees feel a little bit more comfortable. 5 frames were too few, 7 frames are just right, were just right. Now they've grown a bit, so I can take these follower boards out and immediately add a couple of frames today. Now when you close your hive, okay, you do not want to, you want to be as gentle as possible in closing. You don't want to kill any bees. It may happen. If they do, that's life. But for the most part, let's say you have a hive that is boiling over with bees. The way you do it is you would go ahead and slide your top all over, slowly, carefully, saying, hey girls, time to move. Bring it over, and then set it down. And as you can see, everybody's happy. There's nobody broiling out to come after me. And so we have some happy bees here. Please note my smoker. Now I'm going to put the cap on, the outer cover. I'm going to put my rock on top of the outer cover. I'm going to put a rock on top of the outer cover of the hive next door. And as you can see, the bees are relatively happy, and they are not being hyper. Now, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you, and I look forward to watching you work your own hive here in July. Thank you very much. Bye.